Greetings, everyone. Peace and blessings be unto you all. Thank you for joining me. I am Minister Jamie, and you are on the rise. This is the OTR on the rise movement. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. We always begin with prayer, and today is no different. Let us pray. Most Holy Father, Lord, we most humbly come before you, giving you honor, giving you glory, and giving you praise. And Father, we know that the time that we're living in is challenges that we have not seen before. There is hopes and aspirations that we have. There are hopes that are being doused, and even as we move forward right now. But Father, we just pray that you will open our eyes, ears, minds, and hearts in this season with everything that's going on, that we might be attentive to your voice. Not just the cares of this world, for we are to be in the world, but not of the world. But help us to stand, help us to be a light in time of darkness. Help us to represent that hope, that peace, that love, and that joy. We give you honor and glory in all things. Pray you take charge of this program, that everything that's going to be said and done be to your honor and to your glory. We give you honor and glory in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everyone. Peace and blessings be unto you. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. I usually start the program off. I've been kind of jumping into it, and we haven't really been doing as we should. So I'm going to share this with you all.
This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism.
And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
Greetings, I am Jamie Eaton. Join me Fridays at 8 p.m. for On the Rise movement. Okay, welcome back. You know, there's a lot going on in that video, and I played it for someone and asked them their thoughts on it, and that's exactly what they said. There's a lot going on in that video, but I'm grateful that they gave me their opinion, and I'm going to actually try to get in there and slow it down. I actually attempted to do it today, but it's a little bit more time consuming than I thought. But today, we are moving forward. We were actually last we are ready. Okay, there we go. Everything is restored now. I was trying to do something and hit the wrong button. And you notice the difference when you have one. The Bible speaks of having one. He says it's always better when there's two, because when one falls in a ditch, the other one is kind of there to help pull them out. I pray you all have had a great day and that you're looking forward to a great weekend. I know that I am, but the week isn't over. So if you're like me, you still have a lot to get done. It doesn't end that quickly. Our topic is about a matter of identity. And I sort of gave it a subtopic. Let me get the topic up there first. Now, the subtopic is one that pertains to the show. It's a matter of identity, and the show is On the Rise movement. So I wanted to combine or catch both of those. So as we move forward with this. As I stated, I wanted to catch both of those. But the key thing I wanted to get is the topic. The topic, I want to get this up here for everyone. So when you come in, you'll be able to see it. Okay, and that topic is not a matter, but the matter of identity. The matter of identity. And some might think that's not a very important topic, but it is. It is so very important. And I want to go ahead and get started here. I had a slight delay there. And again, I apologize to you all for that. But we're going to go ahead and get started with the program. And again, our topic is, as you can see there on the screen, it is a matter of identity. And why is identity of any significance or any importance? There's a lot that rides on identity. It has a lot to do with how well people perform, their views, the things they will tolerate and will not. All these things pertain to identity. And we want to be aware of that. But what makes it really important isn't about so much whose identity is, just identity in general. So the topic is the matter of identity. I actually was going to start the program in this manner. I'm going to give you a quote, and then I'm going to show you what that quote really says. When we look at life, there's somebody that we have to be able to identify to or relate to or identify with. And one of those individuals for me is Dr. King. And I borrowed a quote from him, and the quote said, "Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness." And he says, you can say all those things. And when that was his wish. But not everybody can say that and mean it. But I can say he was a drum major. He was a drum major for justice. He was a drum major for peace. He was a drum major for righteousness. And why is that important to me? That's important to me because drum majors carry a baton. I apologize to you all. I'm looking at my screen spinning, and I don't want to waste a word. So forgive me. Hopefully everything will kick off here and kind of settle down. But anyway, drum majors are peculiar people. And there was a sermon that Dr. King did about the drum major. Remember, our show is a matter of identity. You have to be able to identify and know what it is that you identify or that you relate to. Let's use this term drum major for example, drum majors. Dr. King preached a sermon, and it was John, actually it was the two sons of Zebedee. And one place it says that their mother asked, and another place it makes reference they asked. But the question was concerning them actually being at the right seat and sitting on his left. And he made reference to the fact that it wasn't his seat to give, that it was his father. But naturally, I want y'all to get this. The other disciples were upset because they asked something that would put them ahead. And most people look at this drum major instinct as maybe, what is this? Is this a positive thing or a negative thing? I can remember I was on a friend of mine's program, and we were discussing that. And I see it as being a positive thing. And the individual said that that was selfish of them. And I didn't really get into it any farther because that's really one of those things of how do you interpret it. But let's look at the actual speaker here being Dr. King. It says that Dr. King, he says that he was a drum major, that he was a drum major for justice, a drum major for peace, and a drum major for righteousness. Drum majors are those individuals that are out front. They will run ahead of the cause, and they will lead others in the cause. And unfortunately, those individuals sometimes are looked at as being selfish because they have the desire to be out front. But there's nothing wrong with that desire to be out front, because we have to know who we are and what it is that we relate to. If we relate to think of it or see it as being a problem, then in reality it is. But as long as we can see our way to be who or be what we consider a drum major to be, and we see it as being positive, then we should do it with all our heart, all our mind, all our spirit, and all our might. And if we have any question concerning it, we should actually wait till we know for certain. We want to move ahead with confidence. We want to move ahead with certainty. We want to move ahead knowing for a surety. And when we get to that point, we are then ready to move forward. So if we're going to be the best that we can be in life, what is the first thing we must do? We must actually know our identity. You know, we can go through life, and the older we get, the wiser we get. The wiser we get, the better we come to know ourselves and the world we live in. But until we get to that point of wisdom, we have to know that we know that we know. And what we know in that moment is where the people around us come into play. When you hear the words that we say here, educate, motivate, and inspire individuals to rise above life situations and circumstances. That means there are some things that others don't know. There's some things that you don't know. People are educating me all the time. And as I get that education, as I move forward with it, I'm imparting it to others. So educating, motivating, and inspiring becomes contagious. But the whole intent is that we rise. We rise. I identify, or I relate to rising above situations and circumstances. If we look at the world today, it's really in chaos. If you look at the wars that are going on, I watched something on the news, and this guy was talking about even the elections, how they would be determined, according to him, based on what happens in Iran, based on what happens in Russia, based on what happens and who was supported. If the U.S. Supposedly fired some weapons, and they have a choice now to replenish their own or to give them to another country. And if they give them to the next country, then what does that mean? You know, there's so many things that are going on in life that come with implications, but we need to know there's a whole lot of confusion. It didn't just start, and it's not going to just stop. So we have to know one thing in life, and we don't know anything else. We need to know who we are and what it is that we are committed to. Is identity important? That's a very serious question that we all have to answer. You know, when you insult someone's intelligence or intelligence, that's my word. That's the worst thing a person can do, is insult my intelligence. But if you insult a person, usually they're going to respond one way or another. And for me, the thing with my intelligence is one of the things I really guard highly, not because I'm any more intelligent than the next person, but I remember a time when I was what I would call straight up ignorant. And when I learned that I was ignorant, when I learned, you know, the words know that you know that you know, when those words took significance with me, it wasn't where I was, it's what I came from. So when I came out of that ignorance, I thought just jumped in my mind. I'd be damned if I'm going to allow somebody to insult my intelligence. That's the one thing that you have. You know, when it comes down to your intelligence and your integrity, people can't take that from you. You give them your integrity, and it's up to you whether you're going to be their fool. There's some people that will insult your intelligence, and if you go along with it, you're playing small. I'm reminded of the speech that says playing small doesn't benefit anyone. So if playing small doesn't benefit anyone, what's the opposite of playing small? The opposite of playing small, you can answer that for yourself, but I'll give you my answer. That is when you rise to your greatness. And what does that look like? You know, that's a very interesting term, rising to your greatness. When it comes to rising to greatness, we have to really give some thought to that, because first of all, the question is, what is great? There are some people that measure greatness by the size of their pocketbook, the balance of their accounts. I'm not one of them. You know, I'm one of those individuals. I learned that money comes, money goes. Integrity is one of those things that it's like a first impression. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Some people look at me and been slow in some areas. It's not because I'm slow. It's because when I open my mouth, I speak, or I decide to do, I want to do it to the best of my abilities. I want to do it as that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it better. And if they happen to, it's not going to matter because I gave it my best. When you look at those, you are undefeatable. But you have to be able to receive that. And you have to be able to believe that. Because if you don't believe that and you can't receive that, there's somebody just waiting to come along and change your perspective of yourself. Because everybody has an idea of who they want you to be. I was listening to my wife. She had this joke about when she was coming up. And she told me about how she would look at people, and she had certain little classifications that she had for them. And I thought to myself, well, that's one way of doing things, but it didn't hurt anybody, it didn't harm anybody. But what I thought about with that was, and what it taught me was that you never know how people see you. And it wasn't anything negative. It was, something we could actually laugh about. And I don't laugh at stupidity, so it was okay. But my point being, we need to know what it is we're about. We need to know who we consider ourselves to be. Because if you don't, somebody is going to tell you, and they're going to contradict sometimes who you might be, who you might aspire to be. And when you run into that, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I tell you what you're going to do. Hopefully something's going to be said and you will remember this show and know that it is a matter of identity. It's not important that that you be who someone tells you that you are. It's important that you be yourself. And I want to say that with some hesitation, because one of the things I always hear people say is that, they're going to be themselves. There's nothing wrong with being yourself, but be an intelligent self. And what that means is that if you encounter someone that you happen to trust that speaks into your ear, you're listening for truth. And if they're speaking truth, let go of that piece of yourself and grasp that truth that they just gave you. You'll be a better self. We should always be striving to be our very best self. And if we all knew what it took to do that, everybody would be their best self. But if you notice, there's a whole lot of questions as to who people are and what they represent. That's because we are searching in many cases for ourselves. There are people who want us to be everything except ourselves. There's some people who expect more of us, as we may be comfortable with being less as ourselves. There are some people who will want to hold us back, but we don't want to do that because somehow we aspire to something greater for ourselves. So when we talk about this self is the thing that we are talking about, this identity. It is a matter of identity. And when you start talking about identity, what exactly is it? I tell people that character is not measured in time of comfort. In other words, don't come smiling in my face telling me what type of person I am when I'm not being tried. And don't expect me to come smiling in yours when you're not being tried, because I know what character is, and I know how to identify and when character shines forth. It's easy to have integrity, except for when it's going to cost you when someone knows the truth. Some people lie. Some people want something so much that they're willing to lie for it. And we have situations in life that we may have been in as it pertains to our past that we're now having to confront. And as we confront those issues, we might still be lying to ourselves. It might be somebody else's fault that I'm where I am. It might be somebody else's fault that I had to go through what I had to go through. But when we get to that point where we realize this truth that liberates us, this truth that makes us free, that's when we begin to question our identity, and we can realize that nothing happened in my life without my being present. And if I was present, I had a part in it. And when you get to that point, then you'll be able to realize there's some things that people have done. There's some people that have touched you. There's some people that have deprived you. There are some people that have taken from you. But when you get to that point where you realize that those things are behind me, and actually, if you think about it, some of those same things probably made you a better character. Because not everybody can say they've been where you've been. Not everybody can say they've gone through what you've gone through. And when you go through something like that, it becomes very important. The importance of identity. I can't stress that enough. You got to know who you are and what you're bringing to the table. I want to say this. I've said it often. I think it's really relevant at this point in time in life. We live in a world today where we as a people, and I'm going to say we as Black people, actually, and we as a people here in the United States, the United States has all these liberties. You can do whatever you want, but still it's supposed to be, I guess you might say, a Christian based on the concepts of Christianity. And when you look at the Christianity that was well in existence before freedom came, it was a lying topic because you had men that were other than what they should have been and treated men other than what they were. So when you look at that particular concept, it has some serious flaws. And when you look at those flaws, the only way you're going to be free from that is that you recognize and accept and embrace the truth. There's a saying, the truth crushed to earth will rise again. There's some things that's going on today in this world that people are about to be shocked with. As I listen to the internet, there's some things that I hear, and there's some things that I discern. I'm going to share this with you. Imagine encountering someone who says to you, or you say to, that you're a Christian and that your Lord is Jesus Christ. That opens an entirely different conversation. But you're good with that because that's what you've been taught. Now, use that same scenario. You encounter someone that says to you that, no, I don't worship Jesus Christ. And depending on where you are, you might say, nor do I. But there are some people that would be offended by that. We live in a world today that we need to be wise enough as the serenity prayer. We need to take that not just in our actions, but in our thoughts as well. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. In other words, we might have been following something, we're embracing something 100%, and it could have been ass backwards or totally wrong. But when we know better, we're supposed to do better. Prime example, Christmas. How many of us still lying? We keep that lie going. We keep it going, even though we know better. We keep it going. As a matter of fact, we didn't got so comfortable with it as adults. We turn right around and we give our spouses and everybody else Christmas gifts. When you look at the concept of what Christmas started as, and not everybody is guilty of this because some of y'all don't know. Some of you just ignorant. And when I say that, that's no insult, because when we look at Christmas, some of us in our faith, we have gotten that thing with Christmas and we turn it around, and it ain't about Christmas and worshiping anyone other than the thought that Jesus was born. It's like Halloween. Halloween we knew was a worldly thing, but now we got whatever it is. We want to open our trunks and give our children candy. It's amazing how we do things. We just grab things. But the point I'm getting at is this: you got to know that you know that you know, because there's going to be some things that's going to come, and it's going to sound just like what you believe, and it may sound totally different from what you believe. But I encourage you all, at least do what the Bible says. Be slow to speak and quick to listen. Because if you're quick to listen, you might be in a position to educate, motivate, or inspire someone to rise above their situations and circumstances. Because the situations and circumstances are this: the world is about to bring and dump something on our table, the same way COVID did. Can you imagine all of us in the churches we were in and the faith we had in God, and the government came and said, y'all get out of here. And you actually got out. You stopped worshiping. And then when you had a chance to go back, y'all can go back, and many people didn't go back. I'm just trying to show you some things. There's some things that say happen in life. It's like the comment that Jesus made to Peter: the devil desires to sift you as though you were wheat. There's some things in life that are going on that are doing that today. It's trying some of us, and some of us are not measuring up. It's challenging some of us, and we're not willing to rise to the occasion so we can begin to rise above the circumstances and the situation. What am I saying? I'm saying that when it comes to identity, we got to know what our identity is. It's so many things that I just draw from that means so much. If you think about it in the Bible, if a man is not willing to lose his life, if he's not willing to lose his life, he's not going to find that faithful salvation he's seeking. And on the other side of it, says, if a man will lose his life, or should I say, if he finds his life, meaning that this world offers you some things. If you go with those things, then you lose that. But if you're willing to lose your life as it pertains to this world, then you find something of value. Dr. King said it this way, and I'm sure he quoted someone else because it's nothing new. When you give it some thought, it says, if a man hadn't found something for which he's willing to die, he isn't fit to live. Someone else said it this way. It says that power concedes nothing except by force. There are some things that people have said that if we really look at it and internalize it, there's no time. There's no time for being stagnant. There's no time for procrastination. There's some things that have to be done. And if we don't do them, who's going to do them? So when you look at the thought of the On the Rise movement, what are we saying? We're saying that we've been in this place a long time. There was a song that says, keep your eye on the prize. It says the first thing we did right was the day that we started to fight. The first thing we did wrong, we stayed in segregation far too long. There's some that would argue today that the segregation was still the best thing to do. But either way it goes, whatever you commit to, be hot or cold, if you're in the middle, you're almost like worthless. It says that God will spit you out. But if you're in the middle, you're in the way. Lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. That means that if you're in the way, you're delaying progress. We want to be a part of the problem. And if we're not a part of the problem, we are part of the solution. And I say we, because in reality, we don't get there. We don't fail. We don't succeed until we can look at the point and realize who we are. If I know my enemy, if I know those that are opposing me, I'm not counting you in my we. But if I am counting you in my we, I'm counting some things that people may not count. I'm counting some people that may have not been informed yet. I'm counting some people that we may not have been able to reach yet. So whereas some might run on and feel they have won, I'm still back here trying to build. I'm still back here trying to educate, motivate, and inspire some people to rise so that we can rise and move forward together. But there are some that, you know, I know where they are and they aren't going to do anything except that. And when I am convinced of that, the truth has made me free. Then I'm free to move on. I'm free to be and do that which I feel God is having me do, that I'm led to do. So why is this identity so important? When we look at this identity, it's going to make a difference. You know, there are some people that have come before us. There's a history in this United States that it scares the hell out of the people in the United States. In reality, black and white. Because when you look at the concept of a United States, this is the same place now that is has two people running for presidency. And whether they say it or not, is running on lines of color. This is the same place that's been battling injustice, corruption, racism, and all these issues all this time, but yet they are applicable. Some of us are good with them because we want a black president. Some of us are good with them because we want this and we want that. But yet at the same time, we're supposed to be at a point where we want peace, where we want justice, we want freedom, and we want equality. There's some words that are coming up now that are going to shut some people's mouths. It's going to really cause people to identify what it is they want, who they are, and what it is that they relate to. When you think about in life, you have to relate to something. You have to identify with something. There's a question on the table and it's growing. It's like a rumble. I heard this rumble some time back. And when this rumble came up, there were some individuals just like now running for office. And this individual used this as a platform, but thank God he did, because had he not mentioned it, I wouldn't have had a clue what reparation was. And there's still some people that don't today. But when reparation comes up, because many of us know it now, because we heard about it in California when they were talking about reparation for the illegals that came across the border. They use that word reparation as it pertained to them, and heaven knows that everybody's almost, I would say a good number of people are against that. So they became against reparation. But tied to that same reparation was also the reparations that pertains to people of color who have been here fighting for reparation all this time. So when they muddied the water and they clouded the issues and they made us appear to be ignorant and they hoodwinked us and they disallowed reparation, some were happy because they thought these illegals didn't deserve it. But there was some that was mad as hell because they had been fighting for reparation all this time. And the issue still is ongoing. So where are we going to be? Who do we relate to? Are we so bought into America that, you know, the past is the past? Or do we relate so much to our people and our ancestors point where the reparation that was due is owed? Or are we wise enough to know that they've given reparation to almost every people other than people of color? When we come to know these things and relate to them and identify to them, they will have a lot to do with where we're going, who we are, what we believe, what we're going to stand for, what we're going to bow down for. And that becomes very important. We have to relate to something. If a person has not found something for which he's willing to die, he isn't fit to live. Don't y'all worry about that. Nobody's going to kill you. As a matter of fact, some of you are already dead. I'm just quoting the Bible, especially for you people of faith. The word of God says when Jesus was calling his disciples, he told one, let the dead bury the dead. And he also said, the words I speak, they are spirit and they are life. And if we are lost as hell in this world, we might as well be dead in it. Another place it says if we are dead in sin, sin is separation. And if we haven't established a relationship with God, we're still dead. So when you hear the term dead, don't let it bother you. Someone might use it, but it may not be a literal death. It could be a spiritual one, which is the worst death I think there is. The Bible says, fear not the person that can destroy your flesh, but the person that can destroy your soul. In other words, if you don't have that salvation, if you don't have that hope, even though you're walking around here, what good are you? You still literally dead for all practical purposes. But I'm just saying that. I mean, some of y'all may not believe that. You may not even be able to see that. You may not even be, as I'm saying right now, to identify or relate with that. But I do want you to relate with this. We live in a world today where things are changing. There's some things that's going on that people may not be aware of. These same countries that are at war with each other, this country that we live in, the United States, plays a key role. And when the United States plays a role, the people of the United States are looked at and thought as being the individuals that believed and stood behind what the government is doing. So there comes a point when we may want to be a little bit more vocal about something. But how do we do that? Because we have leaders today that are kissing so much ass during this election time frame that you don't hear anything intelligent coming from them, just a matter of who would want to get in office. But we've come to accept that come election time. Blow smoke anywhere you want. We're good with that because we've come to realize that's just the way it is. There's something wrong with that. And I pray that some change is coming. And I believe it is. Not just in who's elected. I'm not so much concerned with that, but as in the mindset of we the people. When we were demanding rights and we were being civil in our refusing to do and obey those things that were not just, we brought about change. But today we're not doing that. That's a problem. So we need to make sure that we're standing for something. We're able to relate to something of significance, that we're somehow able to see ourselves as being a part of the solution. Because if you can't see yourself as being a part of the solution, you're definitely a part of the problem. It's almost like people standing. That's a better example. In the military, when they call the unit to attention and they call right face, imagine somebody turning their left face. That means they're turning the wrong way. And when they say march, the intent is everybody marches. So that person turning the wrong way, he's impeding the flow of everybody behind him. So if you don't know how to function as a unit, that means that somehow there's chaos and there's confusion. And if you look at our community, that's what we're known for, chaos and confusion. Relate to that. It's time for a change. It's time we begin to make a difference. We need to realize in life that we got to do something. I love this word as I wrote this down, move on purpose. You know, I'm a member at St. Mark United Methodist Church, and the pastor there, he does this little saying, and he says that we are ready to move. And for the longest, I couldn't say that. When he said move, I say rise. Be right there. And in my heart, my spirit, I'm still saying rise. And every now and then I still say rise. It's just that I'm trying to swallow that word move, but I want to use it right now. We need to move on purpose. I don't know if you all get that, but if you think about a heart beats with a rhythm, it's purposeful. But if it loses its purpose, you go into arrhythmia, or where your heart beats too fast or it beats too slow. If it beats too slow, then it slows you down. There's certain issues that presents. But if it beats too fast, that's life-threatening. So when you go to the emergency room, they are looking at your heart, and they'll let you know, first of all, that something is wrong with it. It's not working purposefully. Is there something wrong with us? Is it because we lack a sense of purpose that we're not willing to move? Is it because we lack a sense of purpose that we're not willing to rise? Then we need to find a purpose. We need to find something that we are willing to, as the word says, that we are willing to lose ourselves for. Some of us are holding on to ourselves, and ourselves really is what's getting in our way. Hopefully we'll have eyes to see that as we move forward. That was a part of my prayer. Open our eyes, our ears, our minds, and our hearts. And when we are looking and operating and using all those organs, we become a wiser person. I'm looking at the screen and speaking at the same time. So move on purpose. And the other thing here, I had move on purpose, and what was throwing me off, it's looked to be the same thing, but it's not. Move on purpose and move with purpose. You know, we do a little thing on the show on Wednesdays, Rise to Prosperity, where we compare and contrast the word. This would be a great one, because everybody that's supposedly moving on purpose, if nothing else but to feed my family, if nothing else but to get a better job, people sell out for that. What I mean by sell out, they go against the norm. They do those things that are immoral. They do those things that are jeopardize the livelihood, even the lives of others, because it would benefit them. Corruption is a perfect example. They may see that what they're thinking and what they're doing, it serves a purpose for them. So they may move with purpose, but it still might be the wrong move. We need to examine ourselves. Now, this move with purpose is a little bit different, because when we look at this moving with purpose, purpose has something that's going on, something that's being done. And when you're moving with purpose, you're going with that. There's something greater. As a matter of fact, use this example if you can relate to it. Jesus taught his disciples and he sent them out. And when they returned, they made mention that there were some people that were doing the work that they were doing, that they were not of him. They didn't come through the same school we came through. They didn't have the same degree that we have. Why were they doing this? So we made them stop. And he said something very important. He said to them, he said that if they are not scattering, he didn't say they're with me, they are not against me. And we need to come to that revelation. If there are some people that may not be with us, but at the same time, they're not against us. If they're not against us, you know, we don't really need to be as concerned with them as we do those who are against us. So when we think about that, purpose is one of those things that's on a mission. And because purpose is on a mission, it's going to be something that's going to be either right or it's going to be something that's wrong. It's going to be something that's either just or something that's unjust. It's either going to be something righteous or something unrighteous. You know, some people say, well, it could be a little bit of both. It could be a little bit of this. It could be a little bit of that. And we become too tolerant of a little bit of this. We become too tolerant of a little bit of that. We become too tolerant of a little bit of a whole lot of things. And if we're going to move with purpose, we need to realize that those little bits don't amount to much. And if we want something for someone other than ourselves, we can't work with a little bit. It takes a little more than that little bit if we're going to be effective. If we're going to be effective, we need to come to terms with first thing we need to know is where are we? And, you know, some people suffer from amnesia when they wake up and ask the question, where am I? You know, that's a hard question to answer for them because you may not know where they are, from whence you came. There's a story I would love to share with you all, but it gets a little bit deeper in an area where, you know, certain things ought not to be mentioned among the saints. There are a lot of people today that are in these different orders, fraternal orders, Masonic orders. But then just as bad, there are these people that are in these religious orders, you know, Christian, you know, Muslim, Catholic, Judaism, religions. Yeah, those things. Those things there are things that separate. Those things there are things that divide. When we look at those things, they don't glorify God. They glorify people and their brothers, my Christian brother, my Muslim brother, my fraternal brother. When you look at all those things there and you kind of look at the life that the impact they have in life. There's some people around us today that are going without. But let one of our fellow religious brothers, one of our fellow Masonic brothers, one of our fraternal brothers have that same problem and come to us. We go out of our way. As a matter of fact, you know that cable tow? We got you. We got you. But when it comes down to love, where's love at in the process? You know, all those places and all those things within themselves, there's nothing I would say that's truly wrong with them because they all leave room for the truth. There's some truths in almost everything, but you have to know those truths and you have to be willing to stand for those truths. You have to be willing to walk in those truths. But the problem becomes a lot of people are not willing to walk in those truths. That's why I said earlier, there's some things that are coming to the light. And I don't know if they'll really come out. I saw something on YouTube that bothered me because there was a teaching concerning witchcraft. And they said something that was pretty profound. You know, you think about in the days when they were burning people at the stake for witchcraft. And then you wonder, where did those days go? It's almost like the days when they were making offerings for their sins. I hope you know where those days went. But my point is, change comes and you need to understand change. But this thing that I was watching was stating that witchcraft is more alive than ever. And if you watch your television very closely, it is. They broadcast it on television. The issue with people being other than what God made them. My wife and I, we watch television and we're looking for that scene when there's going to be this man and this man kissing or this woman and this woman kissing. Because they're giving you that, they're shoving it down your throat. But there's some things that we have embraced. There's some things that we have sought out and continue to seek out that are just as bad, that require just as much enlightenment. So when we start talking about our topic, which is it's a matter of identity, what are you standing for? What are you prepared to stand for? What are you prepared to bow down to? Or what are you prepared to bow out of. Certain things are costly, and some of them can cost you your life. I don't mean as in somebody's going to take your life. As a matter of fact, that might happen. But I'm just referring to the fact that we live a life. Some of us are content in our stations in the world. As a matter of fact, some of us are so comfortable, we've gone beyond contentment to become complacent. We don't want things to change because we have enough of this and we have enough of that. And because we have enough of this and enough of that, we ain't willing to share or give what we have to anyone else. So if it calls for me doing something to help you, it may not get done. That's the mindset of some people. But there are some that will give you because they have. There are some people that believe in the blessings of God. There's some people that believe in the favor of God. Somewhere in the Bible, it speaks of being a blessing, blessing those who will bless you. And some people understand that. So they show favor. They're willing to be a blessing to others. There are some that don't ask them for theirs because they only have enough for themselves. And people like that, people work for that. They'll tell you, I work for mine, you need to work for yours. And there's some truth to that. But at the same time, that person that says that, they got to give an account for what they did, right or wrong. And who am I to say whether it's right or wrong? They might know something about you that I don't. Bible still says, cast not your pearls before swines, lest they turn and rend you and trample your pearls underneath their feet. It also says if you go into someone's house and they won't receive you, shake off the dust as a testimony against them and take your peace with you. And all I'm saying with that is this: we live in a world today where we have to use some wisdom. We live in a world today where we have to have an idea of what and who we are dealing with. And the only way we're going to do that is this word identity. It's a matter of identity. Who you hanging with? Identity. How do you relate to them? Identity. Relationship. Identity. Who are you? Do you know? What's the song? Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Do you know? Are you man enough? Are you big and bad enough? Are you gonna let them shoot you down? I don't know all of that song, but I think somewhere there's a line about your brother. When your brother cry, are you going to be there to assist with that cry? Or are you going to close your door? You know, it's easy to say what we would do, but we live in a world today where we actually aren't doing some things. We have some occasions that are before us. And what are we going to do with those occasions that are before us? You know, the rise goes a long way back. But on the rise is present, where I am now. And to get to this point, I have had to do something that we all are challenged to do. And what is that? And that is rising to the occasion. And what occasion is that? What occasion is that? That occasion is to be the difference, to make the difference, to be the change, bring about the change. And doing that, sometimes it can change your life. It can cost you. And some days, some people will reward you. Some people will thank you. And some people will not. My brother Jerry Brown, I want to thank him for coming in the room. And he entered in the text. He says, King James wrote the witch's Bible before the so-called Holy Bible. And my brother Brown, he's on some information. He sends me some copies of it as well. And there was an individual that was given the history of the King James Bible. But as he stated, supposedly King James must have been a serious author and didn't really care what he wrote about, because it does state that he wrote the Bible and he was trying to show them how they are confronted with witchcraft. It read interestingly. So we don't know whether he was promoting it, or I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was trying to educate people so they know it when they see it. But in any case, he was associated and well informed as it pertained to witchcraft. But that's not a bad thing, because we live in a world today where we have to be as wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. That's a word when I hear it, witchcraft, Brother Brown. I wish I knew more about it, because we, just as we entertain angels unaware, there's some devils up in our face. There's some witches up in our face. There's a lot of things, but that's where we have to continue to study, to show ourselves approved, workmen that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So I just put up this statement here that states, rise to the occasion. What occasion is that? Well, if you ask most people, they'll tell you today that the occasion at hand, and I wish my Brother Brown had a mic. I'd ask him, and I say, what is that, Brother Brown? And Brother Brown would say, to vote. That's the occasion. Everybody is wanting us to rise to the occasion to vote. But, you know, nobody is doing anything truly to influence the votes. And actually, I take that back. I was speaking with a brother of mine. He texted me, and we kind of went back and forth. And I took I guess you might say, the passive role, because I know when it comes to politics, it's a matter of opinion. And you can't change a person's opinion unless they're willing to hear your words, your speech. When your words fall on deaf ears, that's like you sowing seed and they fall on stony grounds, or you're sowing seeds and the enemy snatches them up before they can be taken. But we have a word, and we are to share that word, and we are to be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But I was sharing with my brother some thoughts, and I pointed out to him, you know, I don't really know if I'm really neither a Trump or a Kamala fan, but when I hear and know the truth, I see people promoting lies, and I see people, it doesn't even have to be a lie. It's people promoting ignorance. Instead of educating, you want to put something on my plate and tell me to eat it because it's food, whereas it might be pork and I don't eat pork. There might be something I need to know about what you're serving up to me, but you're not concerned with that. There was a time when I think as a people, when we voted or we did something, our vote carried power. And today, our vote carries what? Depending on who you ask. Some wanted to carry color. Some wanted to carry sexism. Some wanted to carry racism. People are asking a whole lot in this season. But it's not about the people that's asking, because this is an occasion here that you're going to have to rise to. And when you rise and why you rise makes a world of difference. There's a saying, a person that won't stand for something will fall for anything. And God knows our heart. And if you're doing something and you're doing it for the wrong reason, I said this earlier, I want to break it down to you. God would rather have you hot or cold. In other words, he don't want anything that's half-stepping, hot or cold. In other words, love him or hate him. But that in the middle stuff, validating somehow being in the middle, validating somehow being in the way. Now, that's what the Bible says. But you all hear me say it, and I said it earlier. I'm a firm believer in lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way, because you're impeding something. You're preventing something. If somebody is trying to rise to the occasion, you're the thing that's in the way. Now, I want to share this with you all. When you get to the point where you're ready to rise, you rise above the situation and circumstances. Our people have always known that crab in a bucket mentality. That person that no sooner than you get up there, they pull you back. Those are situations and circumstances. But when you get to the point where you rise above them, It ain't what's on the outside. It ain't even what's on the inside of the bucket. It's where you are. It's like Moses. There's a whole mountain. And Moses said he was going up the mountain, made a journey all the way to one spot in the mountain where he was told, take off your shoes. This is holy ground. That ground was holy because God occupied it. That was an occasion where Moses met God, and he met him on God's ground. And some of us, we need to learn how to defend our territory. It was Jabaz that said, Lord, increase my territory. Your territory, and the Bible says, when you've done all else to stand. Just as he said, God's will be done on heaven as it is in earth. If Jesus is sitting at the right hand of the Father and he's waiting, we should be down here occupying until he comes. And occupying till he comes isn't being tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. It's not sitting back with itchy ears, just waiting to see what sounds right. It's more like studying to show ourselves approved unto God, workmen that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. When someone comes at me with something that's questionable, I'm beyond the point of that brother or that sister, because I don't see people as much now. I see enemies. So when the enemy comes or sends something to me, I'm examining it closely. And I would encourage you all to do the same, because the enemy doesn't use strangers. He used those things that are closest to you. Now, I take that back. He used, in addition to using strangers, he would use those things that are closest to you. And we need to have a mindset for that. And when we have the mindset for that, we're somewhat prepared for it. So when we run into it, we somewhat know what to do with it. The title of today's show, and I like the timing of it, it kind of worked out well. But the title of the show was The Matter of Identity. As in, we're going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about the matter of identity. And identity matters. I don't know if you all can hear me when my screen freezes or not. So if I pause, I don't know what you're seeing. It could be my home computer. But in any case, I was saying the program is about the matter of identity. And the matter of identity is very important, because if you don't know who you are, who does? You know, when Jesus asked his disciples, he said to them, whom do men say that I am? And you should do that. You should probably ask someone close to you, who do your friends say that I am? And they'll let you know that they've been entertaining conversations about you with their friends. Ask them, well, what are your thoughts on who I am? And that's a little bit more challenging. But the challenge today isn't about what someone thinks of you, me, what my children think of me, or even your children think of me, what my wife thinks of me, or my ex-wife, or anybody else. What's really important and what matters most is the one question that Jesus, in my opinion, didn't ask his disciples. And that was, who do you say you are? And that's my question to you all today. Who do you say that you are? Tell me so I can address you correctly. Tell me so I will know if you know, because it becomes very important. Today's topic was a matter of identity. On this particular program, we had a program it was a Wednesday show, and we were talking, and it just came out like it was so clear that identity plus relationship equals outcome. How can a man come unto God except they believe he is? And when people come unto God and they have the right relationship, you'll hear them say something crazy for some of you, like, for God I live and for God I die. And because some of them have had a relationship longer than others, you will hear some of them add to that, and for God I testify. Identity plus relationship equals outcome. We're going to do another part to this, and we'll go a little bit deeper. But I want you to think about that. Who do you say that you are? That's the question. That's the question for Black men and other than Black men. That's the question for white men or Caucasians and other than Caucasians. That's a question for mankind. Who do you say you are? I pray that you will ponder that. What is it that identifies you? Because the manner in which you identify yourself determines what you have and who you have a relationship with. And that identity plus those relationships are going to determine your outcomes, the outcomes of your life. I pray I've said something that's beneficial, that's going to help someone. And I encourage you all to join us Wednesday for Rise to Prosperity. It's a show of education. Get that, a show of education, motivation, and inspiration. That's not to say that they're a bunch of educated folks, but it's a show of education, motivation, and inspiration. And I pray that it, like this program here, will make a difference in the lives of the viewers and the listeners. Thank you all for joining me. I look forward to joining you all, or pray you'll join me next Friday. But again, don't wait till Friday. Wednesday, wherever you're watching or listening now, this will do. Same place, Wednesday. Thank you all. Be blessed. And regardless of whom or what, know who you are. And if you don't know, seek, ask, and ye shall find. There's some doors that you might want to knock on that'll be open to you. Because it's very important in this day and this hour that a man or a woman stands for something. It's time we got up, those who have fallen. We must continue to stand, those of us who are standing. And we must somehow find our way to a unified stand. I'll leave you with this thought. The Bible tells a story of Ezekiel having a vision. And most people know about the dry bones and all that other great stuff. But there was something that God said, that they would know he was God when he placed his spirit in them. And when those bones came together and they stood to their feet, Ezekiel said, there's something wrong. There's no life in them. And Ezekiel, being there and doing what God did, and those bones before him, he did what he was told to do. But he was also told to prophesy to the winds and tell the breath to come forth. Some of us today, we're caught up in whirlwinds, but we carry the living word. And it says to come forth from the wind and breathe on these that are slain. And it says when that was done, that he saw them as a mighty army. Rising is just one soldier trying to get to his feet. I encourage you all, rise to the occasion. Only in rising to the occasion will you be able to rise above the situations and the circumstances. I will see you all on Friday, or at least have a chance to speak to you. Those of you who will catch this later, or even those of you who are watching now, if you feel it was a blessing, please share it. There might be something in here that somebody can use. Take care. Peace and blessings.